Homelessness is a shared experience in New York City. Chances are you have walked by or shared a train car with someone who is homeless, know someone personally who has been homeless, or even experienced homelessness yourself. Today, more New Yorkers are experiencing homelessness than ever before. In a city of more than 8.3 million people, nearly 1 in every 83 New Yorkers is homeless. That's more than 100,000 men, women, and children. More than 4,000 people are living unsheltered in the subways, on the streets of Manhattan, or in one of the other boroughs. However, the vast majority of New Yorkers experiencing homelessness spend the night within the city's shelter system, where they remain unseen. For anyone facing material hardship, New York City can be an unforgiving place to live. New Yorkers living paycheck to paycheck must contend not only with the city's high cost of living, but also its lack of affordable housing and shortage of living wage jobs. Sadly, many New Yorkers live on the razor's edge, just one personal crisis away from homelessness. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The number of homeless people in New York City's shelter system skyrocketed 53% over the past year, driven by the unrelenting surge of migrants, according to Mayor Eric Adams's preliminary management report released Tuesday. The report compares data and performance of city agencies for the first 4 months of the fiscal year July through October of 2023 with the same period in 2022. During the first 4 months of fiscal 2024, the average number of individuals in shelter per day increased by 53% compared to the same period in fiscal 2023, driven by the unprecedented increase in entrants, primarily asylum seekers who made up over half of all entrants during the period. The Department of Homeless Services said its quarterly assessment of its shelter. How many people are homeless? In a city of more than 8.3 million people, nearly 1 in every 83 New Yorkers is homeless. That's more than 100,000 men, women, and children. More than 4,000 people are living unsheltered in the subways, on the streets of Manhattan, or in one of the other boroughs. The South Bronx and East Harlem are 2 New York City neighborhoods suffering from concentrated poverty. Burdened with high crime rates, poor health outcomes, and poor housing conditions, these areas pose high risks for child welfare. In most cases, multiple factors are involved. Common ones include mental illness, substance abuse, untreated medical issues, traumatic events, violence and abuse, lack of affordable housing, and difficulty sustaining employment. Hundreds of studies have examined the detrimental effects of poverty on the well-being of children. Growing up in poverty may disturb a child's brain development and undermine his social and emotional growth. There was an average of 83,985 people in city-run shelters per day during the quarterly period, compared to 54,738 individuals in 2022. The flow of asylum seekers to New York City drove a 147% increase in entries to shelter for families with children and a 185% increase in entries to shelter for adult families, the report said. The report noted the number of single adults entering the shelters run or overseen by the DHS plummeted by 13% compared to a year ago. Meanwhile, the average length of stay in shelters dropped by about 29% for families with children, and childless families, and 10% for single adults compared to the same period a year ago. Mayor Adams announced a 60-day limit in shelters for individuals in July and reduced it to 30 days in September to provide relief to the stressed system, though the report doesn't explicitly cite the time restrictions as spurring the shorter stays. DHS said the sheer increase in migrants led to a larger proportion of shelter residents exiting the system sooner. The city has opened more than 210 emergency shelter sites to house more than 170,700 migrants during the border crisis, now entering its 3rd year, according to officials. As New York City faced a worsening homelessness crisis in recent years, officials repeatedly sought to hide the reality on the ground, according to a city investigation released on Tuesday. The investigation came after reports that homeless families stayed overnight at a Bronx intake office in the summer of 2022, violating a legal mandate requiring the city to provide them shelter. The former Social Services Commissioner, Gary Jenkins, delayed reporting the violation and did not give a full accounting of the situation to the mayor's office, according to the 49-page report by the New York City Department of Investigation. Investigators found that city officials had failed to identify at least 6 other previously unreported violations of the rules that are meant to prevent families from being without shelter overnight. At the same time, officials intentionally manipulated public data about the number of families eligible for shelter from 2017 until 2022 under the mayoral administrations of Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams to make the problem appear less severe, the report found. Homeless advocates called the shelter violation findings a disturbing cover-up and said they were extremely troubled by the manipulation of data. They called on the city council to hold an oversight hearing on the report. The city must comply with its legal and moral mandate to provide shelter to homeless families with children who seek it, the Legal Aid Society and the Coalition for the Homeless said in a statement. The violations came in July 2022 as officials scrambled to cope with a surge in migrant families arriving in the city without a place to stay. More than 160,000 migrants have arrived in New York over the last 2 years, and the mayor has said they are overwhelming the shelter system. The investigation focused on 2 top city officials, Mr. Jenkins, who oversaw social services under Mr. Adams during his first year in office, and Jocelyn Carter, the administrator of the Department of Homeless Services, who was appointed by Mr. de Blasio in 2017 and stayed in the role under Mr. Adams. A spokeswoman for Mayor Adams, Kayla Mamalak, defended City Hall's handling of the shelter violations in a statement and did not address the report's criticism of Mr. Jenkins. She said that investigators agreed with precisely what we have been saying all along. There was never any wrongdoing by Mayor Adams, nor anyone at City Hall, as we began to experience this influx. Homelessness is a national problem that has reached a crisis level in New York City. If you live here, you encounter this reality every day. On the subway, on the street, at school, and at work, we interact with colleagues, friends, and neighbors who are experiencing or are at risk of homelessness. Everyone wants a safe home where they can rest their head at night, and everyone wants to experience the enormous possibilities of living in the greatest city in the world. But for approximately 80,000 of our fellow New Yorkers, realizing those possibilities is complicated by the experience of homelessness. We can no longer simply accept this reality. It requires urgent action. Unfortunately, our federal and state governments have failed to fulfill the roles they should play in alleviating poverty. While we must continue to raise our voices and advocate that they meet their responsibilities to all of us, we as a city must act. We need to take immediate steps to provide appropriate services and supports that enable people to exit homeless shelters more quickly and easily, or avoid them in the first place. We need to equip all street outreach teams with the tools and flexibility to bring unsheltered individuals inside. We also need a long-term vision that shifts resources to permanent, affordable housing and reduces the number of people who are homeless. Over the past year and a half, the City Council has engaged with a multitude of stakeholders and advocates. Their perspectives have been invaluable and have allowed us to develop the set of recommendations contained in this report. We want to thank each person who has shared their insights and experience with us. The development of this paper has been a team effort, and it is that kind of collaboration that is essential to moving this work forward.
We have reached the end of the video. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that everything new reaches you